Welcome, dear listener, to another journey through the darker corners of history. Whether you're settling in for the night or seeking a moment of calm, I invite you to share where in the world you're listening from. If you find these explorations of history's shadows soothing, consider subscribing for more tales from times long past. Tonight, we venture into the medieval world, not to explore grand castles or chivalrous knights, but to examine something far more unsettling: the ingenious and horrifying devices created to extract confessions, punish the guilty, and instill fear in the hearts of all who witnessed them. These are the medieval torture devices you didn't know existed. When we think of medieval torture, our minds often turn to the rack or the Iron Maiden, but the reality is that medieval ingenuity extended far beyond these well-known instruments of suffering. Across Europe, craftsmen and executioners developed countless variations of devices designed to inflict pain, each one tailored to specific crimes or confessions sought. Let us begin with the Judas Cradle, also known as the Cradle of Judas. This pyramid-shaped device stood about 3 feet tall, its apex sharpened to a point. The victim would be slowly lowered onto the point, their body weight causing excruciating pain. As they were gradually impaled, the torture could last for hours, sometimes days, as the executioner controlled the rate of descent. What made this device particularly cruel was its adjustability. Weights could be added to the victim's legs to increase the pressure, or they could be lifted slightly to prolong the agony. Moving deeper into our catalogue of forgotten horrors, we encounter the Spanish tickler. Despite its almost playful name, this device was anything but amusing. Resembling a large bear claw made of iron, it featured 4 or 5 curved prongs ending in sharp points. The torturer would rake this implement across the victim's skin, slowly tearing away flesh in strips. The Spanish tickler was particularly favored for its ability to cause maximum pain, while keeping the victim conscious and able to speak. It could strip flesh from bone without causing immediate death, making it ideal for extracting confessions. Perhaps even more disturbing was the Pear of Anguish, a pear-shaped metal device that came in 3 sizes, each designed for different orifices of the human body. The largest was inserted into the rectum, the medium size into the vagina, and the smallest into the mouth. Once inserted, a screw mechanism would slowly expand the device, causing internal tearing and unbearable pain. The oral version was often used on heretics and blasphemers, while the other variants were reserved for those accused of sexual crimes. The psychological torture of anticipating this device was often as effective as its actual use. The breast ripper, as its name suggests, was designed specifically to torture women. This iron instrument consisted of 4 sharp claws attached to a handle. Heated until red hot, it would be applied to a woman's breasts, tearing away flesh and causing severe burns. This device was commonly used on women accused of adultery, witchcraft, or having children out of wedlock. The scarring it left served as a permanent mark of shame, ensuring the victim would carry the evidence of their supposed crimes for life. Let us pause for a moment to consider the Scavenger's Daughter, invented by Sir Leonard Skeffington, Lieutenant of the Tower of London, during the reign of Henry VIII. Unlike the rack, which stretched the body, the Scavenger's Daughter compressed it. The victim would be forced into a crouching position and locked into an iron frame that gradually compressed their body until blood was forced from their fingertips and sometimes their face. The pressure on the ribcage made breathing nearly impossible, and many victims would confess simply to escape the sensation of being slowly crushed to death. The breaking wheel represents one of the most public forms of medieval torture. The victim would be tied to a large wooden wheel, and the executioner would use an iron hammer to methodically break every bone in their body, starting with the limbs and working inward. The number of blows was often predetermined by the court, sometimes reaching into the hundreds. After the breaking was complete, the victim, still alive, would be left on the wheel to die of exposure and their injuries. This could take days, serving as a gruesome warning to others. Among the more psychological tortures was the iron spider, a device specifically designed to punish those who attempted to assassinate the king. This instrument featured sharp iron claws that would be heated red hot before being used to slowly tear apart the victim's flesh. The process was deliberately slow, allowing maximum time for confession and maximum visibility for the crowd that invariably gathered to witness such spectacles. The head crusher worked exactly as its name implies. The victim's head would be placed under a metal cap, with their chin resting on a lower plate. A screw mechanism would slowly bring the cap down, gradually crushing the skull. Teeth would crack first, then the jawbone would break, and finally, the skull itself would begin to collapse. Death was not immediate, and the psychological torture of feeling one's skull slowly compressing was considered as valuable as any confession extracted. For maritime crimes, medieval authorities developed the keel-hauling technique. While not a device per se, it involved dragging the victim underwater along the length of a ship's keel. The barnacles and rough wood would strip flesh from bone, while the victim struggled not to drown. Those who survived one pass might be subjected to multiple keel haulings, ensuring a slow and agonizing death. The thumbscrew, while smaller than other devices, was no less effective. This simple instrument consisted of 3 metal bars that could be tightened around a victim's thumbs or toes. As pressure increased, bones would crack and splinter. The beauty of this device, from the torturer's perspective, was its portability and the fact that it left the victim's vocal cords unimpaired, allowing for clear confessions. Perhaps one of the most ingenious in its simplicity was the water torture. The victim would be strapped to a table with their head tilted back. A cloth would be placed over their face, and water would be slowly poured over it, creating the sensation of drowning without actually killing the victim. This technique could be repeated indefinitely, as it left no permanent physical marks while causing extreme psychological trauma. The brazen bull, while ancient in origin, continued to be used throughout the medieval period. This bronze sculpture of a bull was hollow inside, with a door in the side. Victims would be locked inside, and a fire would be lit beneath the bull. As the metal heated, the victim would be slowly roasted alive. The bull was designed with pipes that would amplify and distort the victim's screams, making them sound like the bellowing of an actual bull. The strappado involved tying the victim's hands behind their back and hoisting them into the air by their wrists. The full weight of their body would be supported by their shoulders, causing extreme pain and often dislocation. Weights would sometimes be added to the victim's feet to increase the torture. The victim could be left hanging for hours or repeatedly dropped and jerked to a stop, causing additional trauma. For those accused of gluttony or greed, the funnel torture was employed. A funnel would be forced into the victim's mouth, and various substances would be poured down their throat. These might include boiling water, molten lead, or even live rats. The victim would be forced to swallow whatever was poured, often resulting in severe internal burns or poisoning. The coffin torture involved placing the victim in an iron cage, shaped roughly like a human body. These cages came in different sizes, some too small for the victim to stand upright, others too narrow to lie down comfortably. The victim would be left in these cages for days or weeks, exposed to the elements and the mockery of passers-by. Some coffin cages were hung high above town squares, ensuring maximum visibility and humiliation. As we near the end of our journey through these forgotten instruments of pain, we encounter the choke pear, similar to the pear of anguish, but designed specifically for the mouth. This device would be forced into the victim's mouth and slowly expanded, until their jaw was dislocated and their throat blocked. Unlike other devices designed to extract confessions, the choke pear was often used as an execution method, ensuring a slow and agonizing death by asphyxiation. The medieval period was indeed an age of innovation, though not all innovations were benevolent. These devices represent humanity's darker impulses, our capacity for cruelty when driven by fear, superstition, or the desire for control. They remind us of the fragility of justice and the importance of protecting human dignity, even in the face of crime and transgression. As you drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps you'll find a new appreciation for the world we live in today, where such methods are relegated to history books and museums. The screams that once echoed from castle dungeons and town squares have faded into silence, leaving only these artifacts to remind us of a time when human ingenuity was turned toward the darkest of purposes. The medieval torture devices we've explored tonight represent just a fraction of the instruments created during those turbulent centuries. Each one tells a story, not just of pain and suffering, but of the societies that created and employed them. They speak to our ancestors' beliefs about justice, punishment, and the nature of human redemption. Rest now, knowing that these devices of torment belong firmly in the past, their only power now lying in their ability to remind us how far we've come in our understanding of human rights and dignity. Sweet dreams, and may your sleep be undisturbed by the echoes of medieval dungeons.